In this second to last episode of Friends and Fellow Citizens, we welcome you to the first ever holiday special. This year, we will be starting a new tradition on this podcast, and we will have our first interactive holiday fireside chat, allowing other members of Friends and Fellow Citizens to share their thoughts about this holiday season. Let's begin. Patriotism, faith, national unity, education, fiscal responsibility, civility, the values that define America. Fascinating stories and talks from America-loving patriots dedicated to preserving freedom, opportunity, and justice. Welcome to the Friends and Fellow Citizens podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Friends and Fellow Citizens. I'm your host, Sherman Tylowski, as always, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this special, monumental episode of 2020 and of this podcast. Today is our first ever holiday special, what I've called the Holiday Fireside Chat Special. And this is a time for more community members of Friends and Fellow Citizens to come together and to share more about how they feel about the winter holiday season and how they choose to celebrate. As a kind reminder, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. I really appreciate all of your support from the very first episode up until now. I can't wait to make more content as we head into 2021 very soon. And this episode is dedicated to the support that all of you have given me and this podcast. This podcast would not have been possible with countless supporters. Today's episode is different because we are also living in very difficult times. I've spoken to a number of people who have had different Christmas plans, people who wanted to travel for New Year's, but are unable to do so at this time. And so I want to bring as much of the holiday season spirit to Friends and Fellow Citizens. And I have kindly asked some of our members to submit some audio messages for all of us to hear so that we can come together and share what is precious for each of us. To do this in a more fireside manner, I've decided to imagine that we are sitting around a fireside. I've chosen Fireside Chat as the name for two reasons. Number one is that this was a well-known term used by President Franklin Roosevelt. President Roosevelt used to use fireside chats to communicate to the people, and it became a foundation block for how presidents used to communicate to the people, and that foundation and precedent still continues today. Now look, I'm no Franklin Roosevelt, but I love a good fireside chat. I love it when people are gathered around a fireplace in a warm living room, away from the cold, but more importantly, a time to be with our loved ones. A time for us to reflect on the year past and a positive outlook towards the future. The first two people I will introduce now are two people whom I regard as my life mentors and the very people who gave me life. I thank both of them so much every day for making me the person who I am. And this podcast and my entire life would not have been possible without them. I'd like to introduce my mother and father to say a few words and to open this episode. Mom and Dad.
Hello, everyone. First of all, happy holidays. This is a very interesting topic for me because I love parties and love holidays. To me, as the first generation of Taiwanese in the USA, I cherish all the holidays and I like to bring all family together. I'm from a Chinese tradition. So Chinese New Year and Moon festivals are traditionally for family to get together. In Chinese New Year, not only we get together, we ought to have a dinner together. Everyone is surrounded in a round table and we share the same food from we call a hot pot. That a big pot filled with lots of vegetables and other goodies in a big pot, and then we scoop it out to each person's plate. Then we share the food. It means we share our happiness, we share our suffering, we share everything together. So to us, family is everything. It's the foundation of a nation, and it's the foundation of a society. In Moon Festival, we also eat something. It's a round cake. That also means that the life is rounded, is well-rounded, that we also share the same flavor from this round cake. So when I come to United States, I'm very excited because the tradition of Thanksgiving and the tradition of Christmas brings family together. Especially, I married an American that we share totally different cultures and we share different religions. But in our family, I consider we have a double blessing because we have two different religions that we can share our happiness and the same values together. We also can share a different views from a different background, different culture. However, we share the same thing is we all have love. We love each other in our family, and we love food, and we love every moment that we can do crazy things together. To us, family is a safe place. Family is a peaceful sanctuary for us to lean on each other. And spiritually, we can also cultivate ourselves and improve ourselves together. So, I don't know what you think of your family is about, but to us, holidays are the times that we bring family together, regardless you are overseas or you're nearby. But this is a time we share our love and share our passion with each other. So thank you very much for having me here, for inviting me. I'm forever your biggest fan in the world. Thank you, Sherman. And thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.
Hello, everybody. I would like to thank Sherman very much for inviting me to share my understanding of and experiences of what Christmas means for myself and my family. I always think that I have a different view of Christmas as compared to most other people because of my experiences over the past plus 30 years. Up until just a few weeks ago, I've recently left a long career at sea. A career at sea meant that about 6 months out of the year, you're not part of the land civilization, as it were. You're on a ship and you are somewhere in the world, but you're not home. The way it works for seamen, and for me since 1984, is you hope that during the course of your year, every year, that you get to be home for Christmas. And you start thinking about that in January. You start thinking about your schedule. You start thinking about when you will be perhaps on or off, or maybe you're not sure if you're going to be home for Christmas, but it's in the back of your mind throughout the year. And when you are at sea and it's Christmas, it is pretty much like every other day of the year. In fact, because you are away from your family and because everyone else on the ship is away from their family, you try to minimize the celebration of it as much as possible. Because by virtue of the fact of trying to celebrate Christmas, you're actually reminding each other and yourself of the separation of you and your family. And because of that, I think that sailors in particular have a very, very fond, a very, very deep understanding of what that separation is like. And as a result, when they are home for Christmas, I think for most sailors, it is a very, very poignant time of the year. Looking back over the past 36 years, I would say probably I was home for only about half of that time. And when you are home, you are thinking about, on the days coming up to Christmas and the actual Christmas day, you're thinking about being with your family, being with your loved ones, being with your friends. And it's so poignant because when you're there, especially Christmas morning, when you're perhaps are with around children or your own children or other relatives' children, and you see that wonder in the eyes of the children on Christmas morning, you also are thinking about the void that takes place when you are at sea and how you normalize and minimize that event to such an extent. I can tell you, though, that when you are at sea trying to minimize the Christmas day, it never, of course, really gets out of your understanding, because it's still, you know still that on land your families are celebrating, but their celebration is muted because you are away from them. So, in summary, I think that when we look at the various people that have to serve all around the world that are not home, for whatever reason, even if they're local, but they're police officers or firemen or a million other jobs that take them away from home on that Christmas Eve or Christmas morning or even just the holiday season, I think that that understanding of what they go through and what we sometimes, I think, take for granted if you don't have those types of jobs. I think that's something that, for me, is that I'll never forget. I'll never forget that separation. And for me, it's all about being together and being with your family, being with the ones you love, and enjoying this time of love. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Sherman, for inviting me to share.
Mom and Dad, thank you so much for your amazing words and your incredible love for me. As your son, I am so grateful to be part of this family. I'm so grateful for all the things you have done for me. And there's no way any son can ever pay that back. It's too much. But I am committed to making my life as meaningful as I can and to live a life for others, just as you've lived a life for me. And you've lived a life for each other. You lived a life for family. You've lived a life for our community and for my projects like this podcast. If it wasn't for my parents and their support for me, all of this would not be possible. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you for everything. I'd like to next invite Amanda to share a little bit about her experiences. Amanda?
The holidays have always been a very special time for me. Growing up in a family that is spread across the U.S., the holidays offer a time for all of us to travel to one place and enjoy the season all together. This, of course, is not the case this year due to COVID-19, But in years past, especially as a child, all of the grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins would gather in one place for the week of Christmas and New Year's. We would cook and bake all the family recipes that had been passed down through the generations, play games, go for hikes together, and every night come together for a big meal to catch up on the year that is about to come to a close. The old family recipes help us feel like those who are no longer with us are still celebrating the holidays with us each year. As a child, these traditions taught me that no matter how far from home you end up, family will always be there to share in your highest highs and lowest lows. To me now as an adult, the holidays are a time to spend quality time with those we hold dear, be they friends or family. It is a time to reflect on the things that we are grateful for, a time to reflect on the challenges we overcame, and a time to celebrate the accomplishments, big and small, of those we love and ourselves. It is also a time of giving, especially through acts of service. Now I am one of the family members who has to make a long drive or flight to gather with family for the holidays, and this in many ways makes it more special. When I was a child, I looked forward to going with my parents to pick up whichever family member it was that was arriving at the airport that day. Today, I am the one who looks forward to seeing the familiar car turn the corner at the airport arrivals and the giant hug from mom and dad who are happy to welcome me home. This year is extra special because I've reflected on the value of being together and holding those I miss close in my heart. The pandemic has made it hard to see family and friends safely, and I know that I am looking forward to the new year because hope is on the horizon for a vaccine that can allow us to safely reunite with the ones we love soon. Happy holidays.
Amanda, thank you so much for that. I met Amanda earlier this year in 2020 in one of our classes at the Bush School, and she has been incredible. She's been an incredible person to talk to. She's been an incredible supporter of me, this show, and other endeavors that I've gone on, and she is really someone to look up to. So, Amanda, I'm very grateful to have met you this year. I can't wait to continue getting to know you more. Really appreciate it. Next, we will have Daniel come onto this show. Daniel?
Unlike you guys across the pond, us Brits don't have as many holidays to pick from, but we did have a few traditions in my family. My family liked to travel, so sometimes Easter was in the UK, and sometimes abroad. Germany, France, Italy, places like that. One little tradition we did have, though, was sometimes we used to drive out of London to the countryside, stayed at old English towns and villages, away from the busy city. One year was the Cotswolds, down southwest, and another year it was Stratford-upon-Avon, a place I visited with Sherman years later, birthplace of a certain playwright, William Shakespeare. You guys might have heard of him. Christmas was usually for families, but occasionally we went somewhere special. A few times it was in Australia, surrounded by family, kangaroos, and 1,000 things that could kill you. Another time we stayed with my German side of the family, at a place called Bingen, along the Rhine River. Beautiful place. See, they had this funny German tradition of Boxing Day walks. The bad news was, they liked walking. A lot. But the good news was, well, there was a pub at the end of the trail, and a nice hot meal. But my favourite Christmas memory might just have been a few years ago, when me and my parents went up to Edinburgh in Scotland. Now, for those of you who have visited our humble little island, if you think English weather is bad, oh, you haven't seen Scotland. Funny accent, but great people. I hear the men wear skirts though. Anyway, we stayed at a cute little place called Dalhousie Castle over Christmas, and to the Scots' credit, they sure made it feel like Christmas. See, where I live, we put out 2 second-hand lights, last year's Christmas wreath, and we called it a day. But to the Scots' credit, these guys sure knew how to do Christmas right. Treated us well, and made us fat on Scottish food, just the way I like it. Now that was some Christmas. But an honourable mention does go to the time me and my mother stayed in New York. You know, you guys have a way of making Christmas, well, actually feel like Christmas. Going ice skating at the Rockefeller Center the night before Christmas is not something you forget quickly. Felt like Colin Farrell from that Elf movie. So, that's it from me. Now I'll pass it over to my friend here.
Thank you so much for that, Daniel. I really appreciate you sending me that and be able to tell us a bit about how Christmas is celebrated across the pond. Being there in London and getting to know Daniel was one of my favorite highlights during my college career and my life. he is probably the most pro-American Brit I have ever met. I mean, when you tell him about Denny's, he will light up and be so excited. And I cannot wait to see my friend again very soon in 2021. And I hope that all is well in the UK with our friends and allies over across the pond. So thank you, Daniel. Next, we will have Denzel share a bit about his experiences. Denzel?
Good morning, Sherman. Thank you so much for inviting me back to your show to discuss a very important and apolitical topic. What do the holidays mean to me, and how do I celebrate them? Wow. I mean, that is such a powerful question for such a year that we've endured. We have often forgotten that we still do have these holidays. We just can't spend them together like we used to pre-2020 or pre-COVID-19. I find the holidays as a time for connection and reflection, specifically on the past year and what we learned. I'm usually home in Hawaii every holiday, but due to COVID-19, this will be my first holiday not in Hawaii. But on the flip side, I reflect on this past year and see it as a blessing and miracle. One of the things that I had the opportunity to do this year was reconcile a broken relationship with my dad. I held a lot of resentment towards him as a kid for not physically being in my life. But God ordained my steps and brought me to this place for a couple months. This gave me a vision for unity and reconciliation. Being from Hawaii, this experience and vision resonates with me because of the aloha spirit. Unity and reconciliation are the themes for this past year. As I look forward to 2021, I will continue striving for unity and reconciliation in different situations, as it says in 1 Peter 3:8-9. Quote, "Finally, all of you should be of one mind, sympathize with each other, love each other as brothers and sisters, be tender-hearted, and keep a humble attitude. Don't repay evil for evil. Don't retaliate with insults when people insult you. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. That is what God has called you to do, and He will bless you for it." And with that, I just want to say thank you, Sherman, for inviting me on your show again. It was really important to discuss this topic, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to share my thoughts. So I hope that you all have a very Merry Christmas and stay safe and stay healthy. Aloha.
Thank you very much for sharing, Denzel. What you shared about paying others with blessings, I think that's a very, very essential part of the holiday season. And for the nature of all of us, I think that is something that's going to bring more people together. I want to thank you for being the very first guest on Friends of Fellow Citizens on August 31st, 2020. I'll never forget that time. I'll never forget that moment when I launched my podcast and those first 2 episodes. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm so excited. I'm so grateful to have you as a friend. Thank you, Denzel, and Merry Christmas to you. Next, let's have Pat come onto the show. Pat?
I want to wish a very Merry Christmas to the host, to the guests, and to the followers of Friends and Fellow Citizens. At this time of the year, we always look back to what happened in the past 12 months. This year is no exception, but Christmas in 2020 is even more important than in other years. We've been through a lot, folks. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and Lord knows when it's going to end. The world is suffering from an economic crisis, and the United States is going to inaugurate a new president next month. This is why Christmas is so special this year. The holiday season means a lot to me. As Christmas approaches, life kind of slows down a little bit. I play more Christmas songs on Spotify and less rap or country music. After Thanksgiving, I began to think about what presents should I buy to friends and family. When I was younger, Christmas was all about the presents I got. We would have big family gatherings too. In the past few years, my focus shifted more towards the religion side of the holiday. It's more about commemorating the birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Obviously, Christmas is still a social event. When I spend Christmas in the United States, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. We normally go to the opulent hotel on Christmas Eve to check out all the decorations, and we go out to have dinner on Christmas Day. When I'm in Budapest, Hungary, like this year, I attend church and we have a feast at my parents' house. I want to thank the host of the podcast for his enthusiasm on his work. It was an honor to be among his first guests on the show earlier this year. I also hope we will celebrate many more Christmases on this podcast. Happy holidays, y'all!
Pat, thank you for those kind words. You were one of the first, and I am very pleased to have you again come on the show and to share more about your experiences. And I think you're absolutely right. When I was a little kid, I used to think that was all about the presents. Then I thought, there's so much more room in the holidays for those whom we love and cherish. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for our incredible friendship that we've had. And I can't wait to continue. I hope all is well in Hungary. And to our, again, as I mentioned earlier, to Daniel, to all of our friends and allies across the pond. Thank you, Pat. Merry Christmas. Next, let's turn to Ben. Ben, take it away.
Yeah. So for me, the holidays are about getting together with family, being together with people you love, people you know, people you trust, and really celebrating your time together, celebrating the fact that you are in a situation where you have them, thanking them for everything they've done. As I'm sure you're well aware, and everyone here is well aware, without our families supporting us, without any support system, we wouldn't be where we are today. So for me, it's all about getting together with the family, all about seeing the aunts and uncles and nieces, nephews, grandmas, grandpas, cousins, everyone, seeing them all together in one place. And we had for several years a family Christmas at my grandma's house, and we would all get together and have a big shindig and eat and everything. And it was a whole day's event. And even when I was in Korea, I didn't miss it. I was still, through technology, able to be there. I think the important thing is for the holidays is to realize who your support system is. For me, it's been my family. Make sure that you're able to be with your support system, reach out to people that are in your support system and say thank you, and it provides an opportunity to reflect on who's helped us get to where we are, because we're not where we are just out of tenacity and hard work. There's been a support system behind us.
Ben, thank you so much for those kind words. And I think you're right about the support system. I think what's almost as important about the support system is really the extent of the support system. I can tell you that there are just countless people who are out there who are supporting you one way or another. I've discussed earlier in this podcast about many of the people whom we might never get to meet in person, but who are those who are supporting our way of life. And I also want to extend my holiday greetings and my best wishes to all of those who are working during the time of Christmas and the time of the winter holidays. I know that it can be a very difficult time, as my father alluded to about sailors. And there's countless people out there who are going through that, and we all wish them well, and we all wish them safe and happy travels. and hopefully they get to spend as much time with their families as possible. Thank you, Ben. Happy holidays. Next, we will have Bakari up. Bakari?
Because of their unique position at the end of the calendar year, the holidays act as a bookend to the year. While New Year's is famous for acting as an enabler for self-reflection and occasionally self-improvement, I find that the entire holiday season puts me in a self-reflective mood. When I was attending school, this was an opportunity for me to finally rest up, and as a result, starting in elementary school, I started to perceive the holiday season as an opportunity to think about what I had achieved in the last year and what I hope to achieve in the following year. It is also an opportunity to remind oneself what really matters, and the fact that holidays are so intimately tied to family for me is something that I have noted time and time again. And it's a reminder that while I will constantly set goals for myself and I will constantly have values that shift, certain values will remain the same, and I will always remember the vital importance of being with my family, remembering that these are the folks that have been with me through thick and thin. And I think that there is nothing more appropriate than the fact that I spend my holidays with my family, my nuclear family. I can count on one hand the number of holiday seasons I have spent with family outside of just my father and my mother. I find myself very, very close to my parents. As an only child, I love them unequivocally and spent just so much time with them throughout my life. So much of their resources were allocated to me, and I am incredibly appreciative of that. As it happens now, as I enter adulthood, recently graduating from undergrad, I'm continuing to discover how much time I should be allocating to my personal pursuits versus my family versus other interests. And it is abundantly clear to me, especially during the holiday season, that my parents are an omnipresent force that I want to be with. So this holiday season, I will be spending my time sitting, reflecting, and sharing with my family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bakari. I want to say one thing about the relationship between Bakari and myself. You know, we met many years ago when we were in elementary school, and we knew each other for about 3 years, and then I changed schooling, and then we went to the same high school for 4 years. And after being away for quite a while, being in the UK, then coming back, but then going to Texas for 2 years. Now I'm looking forward in my time in DC. It was a really incredible moment to see my friend again. I actually saw Bakari at an alumni event for our high school back in December of 2019. We met up at one of the buildings on the school campus, and that moment when you see your friend, you haven't seen him in a few years, but you remember those great memories, and you think about how far you both have come. That was the feeling I had, and I got a chance to have a one-on-one with Bakari. We had a really fantastic meal in San Francisco, just to catch up a little bit, and he and I have been in close contact, and I'm very grateful for him. He's been an incredible friend of mine, and he is, I guess to use Ben's language, part of my support system. So thank you, Bakari. Merry Christmas, and say hello to your parents for me. They're fantastic people, and hope I can see them again soon. And now we will have Allison to join us. Allison, you have the floor.
Hi, Sherman. Thank you for having me. on your podcast, friends and fellow citizens. I'm an avid listener and love how you engage with the topics that are plaguing our nation, doing so with great decorum and civility, something we greatly need today. As regards your question about the holidays and the holiday season and what it means to me, this year is obviously quite different from most. I knew it would be different when I graduated from Texas A&M University and had my diploma mailed to me instead of having a graduation ceremony. That set the tone for a year unlike any other. The summer came and went, unremarkable, not leaving the house much. As we approached the Thanksgiving season, we hosted my grandfather for a dinner of my parents, myself, and him, and it was so nice to have our usual holiday traditions. As we approach Christmas, I'm even more mindful of how grateful I am for my family's health, as well as the continued resilience of our community in preserving our traditions. I am a Catholic, and even though we are not able to have our traditional indoor Christmas masses, our church and our parish community has adapted marvelously by hosting live-streamed masses for the homebound, as well as drive-in masses where people can come, park their cars, and observe Mass in the parking lot, all while maintaining social distance and COVID precautions here in California. I'm especially grateful for the sacrifices that our community makes, especially our military members. I'm currently dating someone in the Army and have just been in awe of how much our service members sacrifice, especially around the holiday season. My soldier gets to visit home for Christmas, the first time he's been home in 9 months, and I'm grateful for this little bit of normalcy in an otherwise crazy time. Above all, we can't lose sight of the Christmas message, which is the hope that the birth of Jesus Christ brings to the world. Even in these uncertain times, we have to keep in mind what really matters. Even though our holiday traditions may look different and we may not be gathering with members of our families for dinner like we usually do, if we keep our eyes fixed on the true meaning of Christmas, we will maintain a sense of what really matters. As we move into 2021 and hopefully a return to a more normal way of life, I would encourage all of your listeners to reflect on what has stayed the same rather than what has changed. Sure, we may have given up many of our beloved traditions, sports games, gatherings, restaurants, but we still have each other and we still have family. It's important to stay in contact with those you love, even though you may have to adapt. I wish you and all of your listeners a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and here's to 2021. May it be better than this year.
Allison, we really appreciate your sharing today. You mentioned your boyfriend. I got to meet him very briefly last year in 2019, and he's a remarkable guy. And you should be very proud of him, very proud of his accomplishments. And it's such a blessing to get to know you and continue to connect with you as we continue onwards in our friendship. And I was very pleased to have Allison as a fellow Californian. I think it was quite a rarity at times to meet someone from California at Texas A&M, but it was great because we got to share so many common experiences here in the Golden State. I was very pleased to get to talk to her and all these club meetings we used to go to. And I just wanted to thank you so much for all that you've done. And you continue to update me on what you're up to, and I'm very excited for you. I think you're gonna go very far in life. Thank you very much, Allison. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And finally, our last guest will be Christian.
The winter holidays have always been my family's favorite season. I can remember as a little boy being so eager to decorate the house with lights, look forward to snow, and expressing so much excitement every Christmas morning. Growing up, every Christmas Eve, my brothers and I would build gingerbread houses, make hot chocolate and cookies after dinner, and watch the Polar Express with my parents. definitely a classic, and we've been doing it for well over 20 years now, so we take it pretty seriously. Honestly, we truly are a family of tradition. I'm fortunate to say, even now that I'm older, the Christmas spirit has never really left. We often visit family in New York City to ring in the new year, but recently we have resulted to having my grandmother just spend the holidays with us. While time has passed, the notion of the holidays has always been the same. Love, connection, and selflessness. Those are the cornerstones of what makes the Christmas season in the Pinera household a meaningful experience. And honestly, nothing spreads Christmas cheer more than friends and family all around. I am blessed to have a family that cherishes and embraces the meaning of Christmas. However, in these trying times in 2020, the holiday season is more important now than ever. With families torn apart and memories rescheduled, the pandemic has made me reflect on the traditions millions of families won't have a chance to take part in this year. I urge everyone to be reflective this Christmas and make it the most this holiday season by calling loved ones, embracing family, and giving back. Christmas is the holiday of giving and being thankful for what we have. It goes without saying that we could all use an extra pinch of that this year. The moral here is, no matter what, keep traditions alive, continue to make memories, and appreciate the loved ones in your life. The Christmas spirit is a powerful thing, and we often take it for granted. So let's make it a little extra special this year. You guys have a great one, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Christian, for your wonderful sharing. You were also one of my first guests on this podcast. We had a great conversation about public transport and transportation policy. I can't wait to see you very soon, my friend. I will be traveling to DC very soon, and we should definitely get in touch again. You've been a very, very big supporter of mine, and I guess I would say, just like with all the others who have presented before, you have given me a lot of encouragement, and you're so kind, and every time we speak, we get to share more about what we are doing and the endeavors that we're embarking on. I still think that the Secretary of Transportation position will be open for you at some point in the future. I really do think that. And what you were saying about making this more special, I gotta say, that's also one of the goals that I've been trying to do, was just trying to find ways to make these holidays special, especially during this time. And one of the ways we do them, I think, is to think of new ways to connect. And I've found so far in this first episode of the holiday fireside chat, and this kind of brings me to just some closing words I'd like to share with all of you before we wrap it up. Listening to all of you share your thoughts about what the holidays mean to you and how you celebrate them, I really love this diverse number of backgrounds and people who come together under one country, under one common goal, which is to be good, to spread good deeds, and to sow the seeds of goodness for not only ourselves, but for others and for those who will come after us. And the holiday season is defined in so many ways. I mean, myself, as growing up as a little boy, and think about Santa Claus and what he brings and his spirit, I still feel that, even though I'm a lot older, but I still feel that Santa spirit. And when Christian mentioned the cookies, I couldn't help but think about those delicious cookies that I used to make with my parents. A lot of great memories. You all bring some memories to me as well by sharing your holiday experiences. And while this year may be different, I'm confident that next year will be better. And I think we will see different changes, but I'm hopeful that most, if not many, of those changes will be positive, and we will see each other again very soon. It's a matter of time, and I wish all of you the very best and very, very safe travels if you must. But more importantly, I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. As everyone has mentioned, this is a really special time for all of us. And I just want to share briefly, friends and fellow citizens, just 7 months ago was an idea. It was an idea I had coming out after graduation with a number of uncertainties at the time. There's still a number nowadays, but at that time it was particularly hard for me, especially as I was trying to figure out ways to contribute and do my part in trying to reconnect people with the founders, something that I'd always thought of ever since I was little. And all of you stepped up, and you've given me hope and strength. And that's all I can ask for. It's kind of surreal. It's surreal. Sometimes you don't realize the support you get until you look back in the year, you connect with others that you may or may not have connected with as much before. You bring back memories, but you create new ones. You connect with those who may be physically distant from you, whether it's 6 feet apart or 600 miles apart, 6,000 miles apart maybe. But we all cherish the spirit that we can feel. And to all of you out there who are listening to this show, on behalf of friends and fellow citizens, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy New Year to all of you too. Don't forget that next week will be the final show of 2020. It is a solo show. I'm going to surprise all of you by not telling you what is going to be in that episode, but we're going to continue this holiday spirit. After Christmas, we'll be discussing maybe some of the things that we want to reflect on in 2020, but perhaps more importantly, reflect on more on 2021 as much as we can. Thank you all for listening. And because all of us need this incredible music, I'm going to be including some Christmas music at the end of this episode, right after I finish speaking, so you can enjoy and continue playing this episode towards the end. Thank you all again, and I'll see you next time. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.